or something. And we're live now.
What?
All right, we are. The countdown was real. Good afternoon and good morning and good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Aaron Sheehan, the Director of Competitive Strategy at Ecommerce, and to my right or your left, depending on how your monitor is arranged, is
Brian Lange,
There we
co-founder
go.
of Future Commerce.
Perfect. Good. Way to pick it up. We didn't rehearse that at all.
No,
As the
zero
audience
rehearsal. We did it
can
so
surely
well.
tell.
It was like seamless.
Excellent. Brian, real quick, I think before we jump into, we're going to be talking about, we're going to do a look back at 2022, look at Black Friday, Cyber Monday, look at some things, some good news maybe from 2022 in the e-commerce world, and then make some cool, edgy predictions for 2023 that we will absolutely not be accountable for in any way because this is a live stream. But before we do that, why don't you, I think everybody watching knows who Ecommerce is, probably knows who I am because I've done this before. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Future Commerce?
Yeah, so Brian Lange, co-founder of Future Commerce, also a director of sales at Right Point. I've been involved in the e-commerce community for a long time. Future Commerce is a media startup, media and research startup focused on what's next in commerce. And we really believe that we're, our mission or our vision is to sort of change the culture of commerce. And I think that there's a lot of companies out there that they've engaged over the years in just getting people to make purchases.
True.
And I think
it is a transactional business.
Super transactional. Been a lot of dark patterns employed, growth at all costs. I think growth is incredible, but I think that relationship is even more important. And so as we look at the future, we're looking at tech, we're looking at trends, we're looking at new techniques and ways of doing business, but we're looking at it through the lens of people and what's good for people. And sometimes that means explosive growth, and sometimes that means slow, steady growth. And this might be that year to talk about slow, steady growth.
Perfect. It's perfect. And so for the audience, you can tell why we're making predictions for 2023. We've got somebody from Future Commerce on to talk about the future of commerce. So it seems like a pretty safe bet. So I would say if you're putting money on predictions, probably bet on Brian's, not mine. This is actually his real job. So I want to start and talk about Black Friday and Cyber Monday because it's just behind us. So it's just in the rearview mirror. I know I've seen a lot of talk about the growth. It was a record-setting year, again, in terms of revenue transacted online. We also had this inflation thing that's happened. And so, what do you see what's your impression? You work with a lot of merchants and obviously, through Future Commerce as well as through your job at Right Point. What are you seeing? What did you see from Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Are merchants saying that it was a success for them that you're hearing? Was it disappointing? Did inflation completely eat the growth? What do you see?
It's a bit category dependent. I think we've definitely seen some different results from different categories. I think some of the brands that I interact with did very, 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 very well. Others didn't have their best year of all time. Certainly, maybe a little bit down year over year. All in all, the number I saw out there was something around over $9 billion.
Billion with a B, I think.
Billion,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the holiday weekend. I think that holiday weekend is only one part of the story. We've been saying for years now, it's not just Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's not just Cyber Monday, it's Cyber Week. It's not just, Black Friday, it's Cyber Week. It's Black October, November.
Yes.
This is how crazy it was. I kid you not. My local Costco got Christmas themes, holiday themes, decorations in August.
Oh, that sounds about based on my inbox. My email inbox from when I started getting promotions. Actually, it's interesting you say that too, because we did as a platform, right? We aggregated an enormous amount of data from our, install base and our user groups. And we were seeing the sort of the bump in holiday revenue in September. Like we could see September and October, like it was Thanksgiving Day. I mean, it was definitely, I think we were Cyber Week, we were 32% year over year compared to last week for Cyber Week.
Wow.
But we could see growth, to your point. Back when Costco started putting up those decorations, apparently it drove everyone to log into big commerce stores and place orders from our data. So that was pretty good. Do you feel like that, because it was a record, like 9 billion, I think is what you said. I've seen
just over.
Adobe commissioned a study, I think it was, because they've got analytics, and I think they, it was 30 something billion for all of the Cyber Week, I believe.
For the whole Cyber Week, yeah.
Yeah. And it was obviously record breaking. And I totally get what you're saying about categories, because some categories are more impacted by inflation than others too. So the margin downstream of that,
right, and that's
they know what you're selling.
The big question about this year was like, okay, yes, retail grew, which is awesome. It did grow, but how much was that just inflation influenced versus that was like actual growth?
It depends on what you're selling.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. In some ways, I'm just happy to see an up year. We've had a rocky year in 2022 in some ways, and there's been a lot of FUD, and so to see oh wow, like we kind of have to interpret these to see if they're like actually really good or if they're kind of like mediocre, is actually like not so bad.
Totally agree.
I'll take it. I'll count it as a win.
I'll take it. Yeah, well, it's so right. It's easy. I think it'd be easy, sort of as a media company like Future Commerce is, or for us with at Big Commerce with this sort of media presence that we have. I don't know about you. I'm very online. I think you would probably identify as very online. Maybe not as much as some others.
Yeah, my co-founder Philip is definitely very online. I'm like a semi-Lud almost.
Oh, okay. I like it.
No, I have like a half Luddite.
Half Luddite.
I am very online. I do a lot of like online reading. I'm constantly looking at things, but there are certain things that I just don't engage with as much. Social being one of those things I do.
Well, because to your point. Yeah, to your point, it's so easy to sort of like fill the airtime with bad news to accentuate the negative. And I think when for this presentation, this fine presentation, we want to accentuate the positive and talk about some good news from 2022 instead of all the ways in which the world has let us down, which would be a totally different live stream, I think. So I'll jump in first. I went looking for those category leaders, to your point. And you've heard of the lipstick index?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. So if beauty finished pretty strong for 2022. I was looking at some of the trading data and revenue from both online and in-store. Prestige beauty, so L'Oreal, Coty, were beating expectations. Beauty was strong in store. And Target opened those Ultas, those like store inside of a store. They were doing really well. So I thought that was encouraging. And for those who aren't familiar with the lipstick index, I think it was coined by, I want to say maybe the co-founder of L'Oreal. I could be wrong about that completely. But it's the idea that even in a down year, that beauty products, makeup, and I think now probably that broadens out into things like nails and other things, actually go up because people will spend a little bit to indulge there rather than making a big fashion purchase otherwise. And so the lipstick index is sort of a different measure of sort of economic health and customer confidence, and it's doing pretty good right now. So I thought, there's a category that was, I think, a winner in the last few quarters. What what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing, we have data through October. October was one of the biggest increases in 8 months. So we're definitely seeing retail continue to at least post strong enough numbers. Like, I think that what the takeaway for this year is it could have been a really bad year, and it wasn't as bad as some people feared it would be. And I think that that's the sort of the takeaway. And looking ahead to next year, I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more, but I feel like, employment is still high. Like this, we're talking about, talk about good news. Like unemployment is still at what, 3.7, unemployment's at 3.7%, which is near 50-year historic highs. Like, it's pretty hard to talk about like a historic recession when you have employment sitting at those kinds of numbers. When you see the kind of data we've seen with retail, yes, inflation has been bad, no question. Yes, are there signs of, you know, some cracks? Yes, but so far we haven't been hit the way that maybe some people feared we would be hit this year. And maybe that's because a lot of the cracks are on the edges of our economy. We saw what happened with a lot of wealth creation and destruction happened in the world of crypto and NFTs and like really speculative stuff. And so it's possible that a lot of the cracks kind of hit the edges of our economy rather than the core of the economy, which is interesting.
I think that's fair. And to your point, you know, the retail sector specifically and how it interacts with the labor market. I don't know how it looks in Seattle where you are, but here in my mid-sized Midwestern town, retailers are having a hard time finding enough people. I think there might even be potentially more sales that are not being realized because there aren't enough associates to work in stores. Everybody's still got, we're hiring signs out here. And you wonder sometimes about how much money is left on the table a little bit because the economy is so strong that it's hard to find those jobs. I think it's all about realignment. It's all about cycles and the rest. I do want to call out, there was a LinkedIn user apparently who corrected me. It was not the co-founder of L'Oreal. It was the co-founder of Estee Lauder who coined the lipstick index. So thank you, anonymous LinkedIn user, whomever you were. Yeah, that's good. So 2022, and Elise says that, more people spend on lipstick to make themselves feel good. I was thinking about the pandemic in terms of lipstick, and obviously I'm clearly a prolific beauty brand connoisseur, as you can tell from my unkempt beard.
You got the beard going, man. I love
That's right.
it.
That's right. But people wear masks, and so probably lipstick sales probably weren't great for that. So I had read a piece that a lot of people had switched to nails because those were visible. So instead of expressing yourself with cosmetics, you switch to nails, and then we switch back, but they're still broadly in the same category, and people are gonna spend regardless. I do want to talk a little bit about predictions, which is kind of your bag, man. The future of commerce.
We've got a lot of those coming here shortly. We haven't released our predictions episode for the year yet, or for the coming year. So little sneak peeks coming.
Are you preempting? So I don't know what's on your episode, but
no, this is good. I love predictions. They're one of my favorite things that we do. It's always a good time to put a stake in the ground. And yeah, we've definitely looked back on a few things that we've said and like, nope, we were wrong. And that's
right. Way to own it, man. Good job. Yeah. Way to own it. I like it. When I was thinking about what was coming for 2023, I think there's a lot potentially that you can talk about that you can see. There's D2C brands going to retailers. There's a certain amount of fewer purists, I think, holding out. There's obviously GPT-3. I do want to come back to GPT-3 a moment. I do want to get back to that. I want to talk about B2B modernization. And this is interesting to me. You and I have been in the space for a while, and I think we've both worked with a lot of, B2B merchants over the years who have been looking to move their offline businesses, processes, or channels online, or develop brand new channels they didn't have before. I think we're going to see a ton of B2B modernization in 2023. I think the economic landscape that we're in is one that's rewarding efficiency and sort of like intelligent spending more than anything else. And I can absolutely see the SaaSification of B2B software coming real in a way in 2023 that we've been trending that way for quite some time. And I think in 2023, it's going to really accelerate. And I think there's two ways to look at that. There's taking a normal B2B buying experience and putting it on consumer electronics sort of to replace it. So there's like I was using a fax to send my order to my distributor, or I was doing a paper catalog, or I'm picking up the phone, maybe that fax machine is an SMS message, right? Like there's a certain degree to which making that transaction accessible on a different medium, you're not really changing the nature of it. And maybe I'm still messaging the same rep that I was sending the fax to before. The intermediary hasn't changed at all, but I think enabling those sellers or that buyer relationship to be digitized, I think there's a lot of potential for, and the cost keeps coming down. I think that's one thing that is fascinating to me is how much the cost of technology drops every year. And so the more that keeps happening, the easier it is to make the case to your board or to your ownership. Hey, why don't we look at adding to this channel? And I think better tools for one-on-one interactions. Adding more value per touch point. And I think on the long tail, obviously, web ordering portals. BigCommerce obviously has quite a few B2B customers who are using our platform to power a branded ordering portal at some level. And I think we're going to see even more of that in 2023. There was a McKinsey study that I was looking at that said that 65% of B2B merchants or B2B customers wanted to self-serve product research materials. 65%. That was a jump from 35% 3 years earlier. So that is a massive increase. That is the people like you and I who are young and in our 30s, right?
30s, yes.
30s, definitely 30s. Definitely 30s.
I've got 100%
30s. 100%. You and I are in our 30s. Nobody on this live stream is going to tell us otherwise. If I'm wanting to learn something about a product that I'm thinking about buying, I'm going to go online and research that. And where I go online is based on where the resources are. And so I think more companies are seeing that and seeing the value of being the authoritative source of truth and so for their products and for their brand online to facilitate that research. Now, I do think you're going to see a lot of easier to use SaaSification of the B2B model in 2023. There's my prediction. Done. What's yours?
I'm in on that. Let's talk about this for a second because
I
totally agree. I think you must have been listening to Future Commerce step by step because we just did a full series on this. And we had Kirsten Green from Forerunner Ventures on, which if you know Forerunner at all, is like Forerunner has been like one of the primary drivers behind sort of the D2C explosion and like was a literal forerunner in that regard. Well, Kirsten has actually, who's the founder and principal there, she's actually adjusted her thesis to incorporate B2B and the way that B2B businesses are going to function. I think there's sort of two sides to it. So you talked about someone coming into B2B and like looking at these tools that they have, and we've got a whole new generation coming in of younger hungrier workers that have not really been in a B2B role before, potentially maybe either coming over from D2C, and they're stepping in and they're looking at the tools that they have and they're like, net 90 paper that you tear the little holes off the side of with like what's going on here. So there's going to have to be a transformation for that next generation. The tools that they use in other parts of their lives or in previous roles are just way too far advanced. And so I fully agree with you. I think the other side of it is you've got this explosion of D2C companies that were digital natives, right? And they launched their brands digitally and they've been all direct to consumer, and now they've got a lot of pressure to grow.
Man, I hadn't thought about that. So the D2C natives are now encountering legacy B2B workflows, and they're probably losing their minds now.
They're losing their minds. That's right. So they're trying to.
You want me to do? What do I do? Tear the thing and I've got to call and Yes, wow.
Exactly. So there's going to need to be a type of software that they can really leverage and access and use, and that will be good for them in the way that they operate, the way that they're staffed, because some of those businesses are going to have a really hard time like going backwards in their tool set. And so even
Yeah.
if it costs a little bit more money and they give up a little bit of margin, they're going to be willing to pay for tools that allow them to run the business the way they want to run it.
And leaner, right? To the
Right.
earlier point about workforce, is that like automation is always going to be in style, but automation in service of a better UX.
I also think that B2B purchasers are changing. So that's the other side of this as well, where B2B purchasers are coming in and maybe they've run out of stock on something and they can't get something because we've had such massive supply chain issues. And so instead of running through their typical procurement processes, right now, I think there's a massive long tail opportunity where they're going outside of their typical relationships and they're looking for opportunities to go buy something that will fill their need. And they're going to the internet to do it. And they're going to be looking for marketplaces or manufacturers that have really phenomenal online experiences. And so I think the long tail opportunity that you kind of mentioned, B2B ordering portals, it's going to become more than just an ordering portal for existing customers. It's going to be a customer like acquisition channel. And then ultimately a customer retention channel, because once you get someone into a situation where purchasing is like so much better, that's a moat. So if your tool set is modern and useful and easy, buyers are going to go to you. And there has to be a set of tools that are introduced, and like we had Balance on our step-by-step series that we did with Kirsten. We're going to need to be tools that help disintermediate some of those things. Like Balance is a purchasing tool where you can set your terms. Someone will make a purchase, Balance will pay you, and then they'll go collect the money according to those terms. That will be necessary for those types of long tail situations to exist.
Traditional banks in shambles, right? As a result,
because those net terms are based on trust, and a lot of B2B purchasing is based on trust.
Absolutely. So, that's that net 60, net 90 kind of stuff that you see all the time.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different angles as to why B2B is the next frontier for modernization, the application of tools. And ultimately,
I'm going to have to stop you because we are approaching. We have 8 minutes left.
B2B all day long because
I know, and so do I. We have 2 more things on the agenda. We have 2 more things on the agenda. I don't know that we're going to get to them both, so I'm going to let you pick. Do you want to talk about headless commerce,
which was
your prediction, or do you want to just go straight into sci-fi land?
Can we take like 2 minutes to talk about headless? I'll
Absolutely.
take 60 seconds. You take 60 seconds.
Do it.
Okay, cool. So I do think there's going to be some interesting things that happen with headless this year. Headless has been a really, it's been expensive. There's been a lot of claims out there about making headless efficient. I think that those start to come true this year. I also think we're going to see some consolidation. There was a huge explosion of headless startups or headless offerings in the past year. People all trying to get to making headless something that was actually affordable and usable. There were a lot of big claims out there. I feel like the end result was still really expensive. I think this is the coming year where we start to see like actual like affordable headless solutions. It starts to become a native part of how we go to market, and even on down market platforms. And I won't say which ones, but I think that's going to be a big step forward coming here, is that we're going to start to see headless become something that's more widespread, not outside the norm, and easier to implement and use. And I bet you have comments on that.
You're right at 60 seconds, so that was impressive. I do have some thoughts on that. I've been talking about this with a lot of people lately. I think that we're still in the middle of almost a linguistic and philosophical discussion about headless, because I get asked, what's the difference between headless and composable? What's API first? What's modular commerce, right? There are all of these terms that get thrown around, and vendors sort of like pick up the ones that they think sort of like best describes their product, and merchants are often left kind of like scratching their head trying to figure out what the difference is. And so I'm hoping that what we will see in 2023, I agree with you. I think we will see cheaper, more accessible headless builds. It's not the technology necessarily, it's the actual implementation. So more agencies and developers get familiar with like how to architect the stacks. We had so obviously BigCommerce, member of the Mock Alliance, very composable and headless as an option, not the only option with us, but it is a growing option for us. I saw something that blew my mind a couple of months ago. We had a B2B headless site launch in Europe, and they built the site in 5 weeks. And it's a really interesting looking site. Wow. It's actually a really pretty site to look at. If you go to magicalmushroom.com, it really sounds like I'm trolling everybody right now, but it's mushroom-based packaging. So to replace sort of like wasteful, non-biodegradable plastics, it's sort of like it's a packaging company that's like B2B to people who are shipping things. The site is beautiful. 5 weeks built headless, and in my experience, a lot of times headless projects go on for a long time, right? Because somebody makes a decision to go headless, and then they work out the architecture like way downstream of like kicking off the project. And if you go into it and you know what your tools you are, you know what platform you want, and you have a vision for like what you can actually get it done. I don't know about you, I haven't seen too many sort of like big sort of normal e-commerce monolith projects get launched in 5 weeks. So I think we're going to see more magic. I think we're going to see more mushrooms in 2023. So that would be mushrooms. More mushrooms.
That's a bold claim, and I like it.
You like it? Okay.
That's the code word for like affordable, quick headless. A mushroom.
Perfect. A mushroom. Let's coin that now. So let's talk about what we're excited about for 2023. We've only got a few minutes left. You and I met, obviously, coordinated this a little bit ahead of time, and we were both really interested in GPT-3, and chat. Everybody's like, since you're not online, you're a Luddite, as you mentioned. Like you're not. Do you know what it is, Brian? I know you've been on your reservation in rural Washington. Have you heard about OpenAI and Chat GPT?
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, if you watch Twitter at all or LinkedIn, you've heard about Chat GPT and GPT-3, and there's some. The things that I've seen out of this so far are truly mind-blowing. And yes, like you can go look at all the criticism. You can look at all of the like, okay, this is what it is. I think the use cases are what we need to expound upon, because I think that they are multiple, and they are like, this is going to transform how we like write, how we create, new content, how we like, even if it's not written content, say it's audio content like this, there's opportunity to apply Chat GPT and be able to reuse content.
This entire script was. I feel like you're setting us up to say that this entire script was written ahead of time by a chatbot.
It might be.
It might be.
I feel like our conversation almost could have been created by an AI. Almost.
It's terrifying.
But the difference between down market software and enterprise software is actually about this much. So I feel like humanity still has a place. Hopefully, I had a tweet earlier. I don't know if do you know Marshall McLuhan?
Oh yes.
Yeah, the medium is the message.
Medium is the message. Yeah.
So if the medium is AI, if AI is sort of the ultimate medium, what is the message back to us? And the answer could be humanity is unnecessary.
Well, that is we're veering into sort of darkness, and this is a place of light and happiness. So I think I'm excited about GPT-3 because I think more it's transformational technology is transformational based on the number of people who get their hands on it and then decide what use cases it's going to solve for them. And so GPT-3 has been around for a little while, OpenAI, but it's been in this sort of like this developer closed bubble, right? There were a handful of people who had access to it. They opened it up, and it's like the stuff you're seeing now are things that initial group didn't even think to sort of like run through the algorithm. And so you're seeing, I think you're going to see a ton of brand new businesses get started in 2023 based on using GPT-3, and I think it's going to automate a lot to all those earlier callbacks. It's going to automate an awful lot of repetitive work that is going to free up more people to do value positive things in the workforce. That is the optimistic view of GPT-3. We'll also see lots of things like probably fake product reviews and SEO algorithm gaming
Those
from
already
like
exist, Aaron. Those already
yes,
exist.
yes,
But yes,
exactly.
even
At scale,
more so.
just use at scale. But it's not. This is and then yeah, GPT-3 did not endorse or write this. We're not getting paid by big AI. I'm not. Maybe you are. Are you? Can you share?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are right at time. So thank everybody for tuning in and listening to this completely unscripted LinkedIn Live. The look back at 2022 and the predictions for 2023. Feel free to hold Brian accountable to his predictions for next year, but not me, because he's the professional and I'm not. Brian, where can people find you if they want to learn more about Future Commerce?
Yeah, two things. So futurecommerce.fm, or you can find us at social at Future Commerce on your choice platform of choice. And then we also just launched a book, Archetypes. It's actually a whole experience. So if you go to archetypesjournal.com, you can check it out. And it's an exploration of 12 different types of brands. And you can actually take a quiz to find out which one you are. But some great content there. Just released one of those pieces today about my undying love for Costco. You should absolutely go read it. We write, we do podcasts, we do events, we do reports. There's a lot going on. Go subscribe, futurecommerce.fm. You will not be disappointed. At least I hope you don't.
Perfect. And after the break, when we go offline, I will tell you what my personality type was because I took your quiz. But I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.